Hi, welcome everybody to episode 18 of Wait, Hold Up, What? If you have been following along, our last episode was with Anna Campbell, writer, director, producer, and actress, currently starring and having done all of those verbs for the movie NORA, streaming on the Veep, VEEP platform. And we talked so long that it made enough for 2 episodes. So please join us and jump back into our conversation with Anna Campbell. And if you missed it, go back, listen to episode 17 first, and come on back here. Wait, Hold Up, What? A podcast from the women behind Eliminate Girl Hate. Stories are the foundation of progress, and for too long, the voices of women and marginalized communities have been ignored or silenced. At Wait, Hold Up, What? We're reclaiming space to share the struggles, triumphs, fears, and joy that shapes our lives. Join us as we explore the intersections of identity, equity, and empowerment, offering education, support, and a little inspiration along the way. Whether it's breaking barriers, celebrating wins, or tackling the tough stuff, this is a space for everyone to feel seen, heard, and uplifted. We invite you all to join the conversation and help us explore ways to eliminate girl hate together. Can a bra help change the trajectory of a girl's life? Did you know that nationally only 20% of girls engage in at least 60 minutes of daily physical activity, a lower rate than boys? Or that girls' participation in sports drops off significantly from the ages of 10 to 17? Wait, hold up, what? Yeah. Some of the barriers that contribute to this include lack of financial means, lack of role models, dropping body confidence, and concerns about body changes, including breast development and the need for a sports bra. The simple intervention of a sports bra, along with the normalization of body development, can change the trajectory of a girl's relationship with body movement for her whole life. You heard that right, her whole life. Every girl deserves to feel comfortable and confident in her own body. And that's why Bras for Girls partners with more than 25 athletic brands and donors just like you to distribute new, high-quality sports bras and breast development booklets to girls in need, ranging from the age of 8 to 18. Let's get girls in well-fitting sports bras right when they need them the most. Girls plus sports equals a beautiful world. You can donate to Bras for Girls today at brasforgirls.org. And as a side note, Eliminate Girl Hate has partnered with brasforgirls.org and will be donating a proceed of all merchandise sales to helping girls get in the bras that they need and keep them in sports. You can help by shopping the Eliminate Girl Hate store today. How many times have you heard the words workplace and culture used together and found yourself rolling your eyes at the thought? Believe me, I'm with you. I'll be honest, as I record this, I just rolled my eyes. That's because the word culture has become homogenized in such a way that they actually had us believing ping pong tables and pizza were symbolic of a good place to work. COVID changed that. Remote work was a success in the eyes of many, and as such, our ideas of what constitutes a good workplace culture have changed, and it boils down to one crucial element: equity. Now, don't you roll your eyes again on me. It's true. The expectation of employees is that they have a work environment and culture that works for them, regardless of who they are. No more cookie cutter swag and Pizza Hut deliveries, mandatory after hours, happy hours, and all of the other things they do to make us feel like we're a family. This is especially true for women. Remote work gave many more hours in the day, the flexibility to feel more productive and present, and a choice in how and what style of work is best for who they are and what they do. This is at the core of what equity means, because the old way was made for one group of people. And this is where Eliminate Girl Hate comes in. We help create safe and equitable spaces for girls and women, and we help the companies that employ them be more profitable in the process. Not rolling your eyes anymore, are you? Check us out at eliminategirlhate.com. Use code WAITHOLDUPWHAT in your contact form for a free consultation call and see how we can help you and your business.
So I think that we're talking about the difference between the leaders that we adore right? And maybe part of this problem with individualism is everybody thinks they're supposed to be a leader instead of, again, coming together as a group on a shared and united task.
Oh, you said it right there. And it's not even just about leader. It's the individualism that we all are supposed to be doing the same thing.
Right.
Right. And that
we're all standing behind, the person with the one great, it doesn't make any sense to me. We used to get rewarded with a white picket fence and a gold watch, right? And retire in happiness. If all we did was dedicate ourselves with love and support to something that we believed in. And I think that it's a mistake that's gone, right? The middle class is dropping away.
Yes, all of that is true. But that was also a story we told because most of those people weren't happy.
Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to all of them.
For sure.
I haven't talked to all of them.
And
that's fair.
These are sweeping generalizations.
And you and I are big thinkers, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to argue.
If we think the 50s, we look at the 50s, right? We think the picket fence, the go to work, you got a pension. As the man, your dinner is made when you came home, right? So those women...
Fucked for women.
Fucked for them.
Yep. I made a whole music video about that.
You did. Fucked for the kids.
Yeah.
Because we didn't demand the fathers to have an emotional relationship with their children.
And we gender rolled expectations of them immediately.
So it looked beautiful. Like, think about Edward Scissorhands, right? Like, the cinematography in that is so... It really sets the stage, right? Because you're seeing all the houses look exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're all wearing the dresses with the aprons. Yeah. And the hair was all coiffed. And like 1940s eyebrows, get out, right? Like we've never had them better. But it was the manicured lawn and the mess that was inside, right? Like we just didn't show the mess in our art before.
It was
in the same way.
I think some of the artists probably did, but I think it was a singularly prescribed story. And it was, just as hard to break out of them as it is. But, this is humanity, right? We go, oh, okay, we figured it out. Oh, no, that didn't work, right? Oh, I got a new that. Oh, no, not quite that, right? Yeah. Oh, let's elect a new president. Oh, that's a disaster. Right? And that there is no perfect answer. And there certainly is no answer that's going to work for everybody.
Exactly.
So living in a time where there are more options open and available than ever before. Yeah. But what makes me sad is that we think we have to be an innovator in order to be happy. And I think there's plenty of people out there who would be perfectly happy to be working with great joy for an innovator. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, yes. So I think I'm that way.
Yeah.
Weird. No, I'm I know. I'm an idea person for sure. Give me pen and paper. Give me some art to look at. Let me go out and I'm going to give you 500 ideas.
Yeah.
I'm okay if you take them all and make something with it.
That's why marketing was fucking perfect for you in so many ways.
Until it got bastardized is what it is today. I can't, ethically, I struggle with it.
Well, and until corporate entities and we realized that, we weren't quite being fair to women. Blah, blah, blah,
but it's gross now. It's not that it wasn't always gross, but now it's algorithms.
Yes.
And it's tracking and it's watching. It's not really knowing what people want.
Yeah.
And how they live and who they are. I am fascinated with the human experience.
Yes.
Like I wish I had known about cultural anthropology and all of these things when I was younger, because that is, and people will tell you that's always been my brain, right? But there's a quote from a movie that when I watched it 20 years ago, I think the movie's like 20 years old. It resonated different than it does now.
Yeah.
So it's every woman's favorite holiday movie, The Holiday.
Yep.
Right?
It's a good one. Yep. It's a solid.
And Kate Winslet is out to dinner with the old gentleman, whose name I'm blanking on right now, but I do know it.
I think I only saw the movie once, so I'm not going to be helpful here.
It's such a wonderful movie. But it's such a great line. He says to her, I see what your problem is. You're acting like the sidekick in your own life when you should be acting like the leading lady. Yeah. And she goes, oh my gosh, no therapist has ever hit it on the head. I should be the leading lady in my own life. And I was like, oh my God, this is so me. Here's the thing. I love being the sidekick.
Yeah.
I like being the funny person that doesn't have the stress of having to look and be and act a certain way. I want to be me.
Yeah.
And it is okay if I don't get top billing.
Yeah.
But the world told me, okay, you didn't have kids, you didn't get married, go up that damn ladder. And so I did it. And I made myself sick.
Yeah.
And I made myself miserable.
Yeah.
And I tried to be... You said something earlier that was so on the head for me. I built for other people. Like I'm the party planner. I'm the one that gets everybody together. I was the one who was just like, I felt like it was my job and my responsibility.
Yeah.
Everybody in the universe thrilled and happy. And meanwhile, nobody saw me. Nobody recognized what I needed. And no one held my hand when I needed it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the change that is slowly happening, but it's happening to women at 40 and 50.
Yeah.
And we need it to be this thing that we're ingraining in people to say, are you the leading lady? Are you the sidekick?
Early.
Yeah. Are you the extra? And all of those are valid and important and beautiful and gorgeous experiences that will give you a full life.
Can we take it back one other? Please. Let's take it back to 2021. People pleaser?
Oh, yeah.
People pleaser.
Oh, yeah.
So the problem is, right, we never had the person who, because we didn't know how to ask it, nor did we probably know that we were allowed to get it, right? The person who inherently took care of us, right? And sometimes that can be a partner and sometimes that can be the best friend. But I was always the person who was like, I'll give. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I have no idea where to get.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to even take care of myself, right? Or ask.
Yeah, it's the where and the how. Yeah.
Request help or insist that, no, I didn't want to do that. I didn't know how to do any of those things. And it was messy while I was figuring out how to say, versions of no, right? Just a simple no. Yeah. And retraining the people around me and losing some people and gaining amazing new ones. When I realized that in the perhaps societal or certainly needing to get the applause that had trained me to be a people-pleasing person instead of a being-pleased person.
Yes. So
you can be a sidekick or you can be a leading lady. I don't care. You can be the, housekeeper. It doesn't matter as long as someone is making sure you have what you need.
And by the way, leading lady today, extra tomorrow, go back and do that, right? Like there's also this like that we're going to be in the same lane our whole lives.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't ring true because I keep saying this lately and I feel like such that person. It's Maya Angelou, right? Like when you know better, you do better. That simple little thing is why we can't stay in the same lane.
Yes.
Because I know so much more about myself. And that 5 years for me, you just described that, right? Yeah. And it's also, I'm still working on how to ask. I have figured out the who.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And I think that when we were young, this is my experience at least, we grew up in a much less optioned time. So we all listened to the same song. So you were friends with the people who also liked your music.
Yes.
They liked your movies. You liked the things.
Yes.
Now I'm realizing nobody I know likes anything I like. We all have different interests.
Yes.
And is that okay? I think it is okay. There's different people in your life for different reasons.
100%.
And it's such a dumb thing to be like, hey, I'm almost 50 and I just had this realization.
No,
but it's because we don't allow for that.
It's not. And I don't think it's dumb at all. And I also think that the hardest part of it is allowing ourselves to be messy while it happens, right? Allowing ourselves to be like, I didn't do that well enough. I wasn't, good enough to that person. I wasn't good enough to myself, but I need to learn how to do better in the ask.
Yes.
Learn how to do better in that, right? So sometimes
be
more specific, right? Figure out the way to talk in a new voice that I've never used before. Of course, it's going to be rusty. And of course, it's going to come out a little squeaky or a little angry or a little scary or a little whatever that thing is that's again in the too much vibe. We have to give ourselves permission to still be that little girl who is a little too, pick your adjective, and admit that she's still the same person we are today.
So I want to ask you something. It's very esoteric.
I'm ready.
It's not even what
nothing we've been talking about was. I know, it's so good.
But this has been what I've been wrestling with lately. Yeah. So when you go through that process and you heal and you find boundaries and you find ways to ask for things, you do also find yourself in a lot of solitude because of that.
Yeah.
Because you said you got to learn to say no. I would counter that with saying you also have to learn how to say yes, but yes,
sure,
you.
You have to figure out which direction you need to be going, right? I think that that's what it is.
So it's like, I always like, if I'm going to give life advice, it'd be like, learn how to say yes and learn how to say no. Both are equally important. So my esoteric question is this.
Yeah.
The problem with, or no, the conundrum with vulnerability and putting yourself out there in any aspect of life is expectation. Right? So expectations, there's so many idioms that people use. Like expectations are a recipe for disaster. Because if you expect and then you don't, right? You go, But then there's this whole other universe that is like, you have to think positively. It's the secret. You put out in the universe what you get back, right? So I'm struggling with this intersection of expectation versus being a negative thinker or a positive thinker, because I want to put positive energy in the world and I want to hope and I want to dream and I want to expect the best for me and think, I'm a badass. I deserve this. I'm going to get this job or this promotion or whatever it is. Right. But that immediately sets up an expectation and the brain starts going into, when this happens, this, and this, right? And so you do get disappointed and you get derailed.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm just curious through your process, if you've dealt with any of that intersection and how you have dealt with that.
Like every day.
I told you it's real esoteric.
Well, it's several different things at the same time. In a world where we've been very shut down and we're teaching ourselves to open back up and be vulnerable, we still have to be careful where. Right? We are not actually safe everywhere we are. So a lot of the mechanisms that we built up to keep ourselves secure and the walls that we built up to keep our little girls safe, right, were of some kind of value. And the question is just where and when, right? So I don't think, even as a person who sells vulnerability for a living, right, there are still many places that I don't think it's safe for me to say I can just be completely my most disastrous self here. I think that's to begin with. And second of all, as soon as you're telling yourself, I should be thinking positive, you're actually not thinking positive, right? You're immediately like, I'm not doing it well enough. I'm not doing a good enough job. And so you're sending yourself into the cycle. So I think that the problem with all of our manifesting positivity is we're told you should be doing it. And it's just another pre-prescribed notion of the way of the ways in which we're supposed to behave. And being able to live in a positive frame of mind is a truth-based living situation. Thinking positively is trying to change a negative into a positive, and it's falsehood immediately. So the question is, if I go out for an audition, right, for example, again, 89% of the time I'm going to get a no. I had a job that I was on hold for and the whole job disappeared, right? Like, what are you supposed to do, right? That has happened. Right, exactly. Nothing to do with me, right? So do I sit there and go, if I get this job, everything will be okay? Or, man, I feel good about doing everything I could do to put myself in the position where that job, if it's meant to come to me, will be mine. And that's different, right? One is like super grounded and one is super real. And one is still like wishful thinking and like sort of floating up in here. And the question is, you said it before, right? When we're listening, when we're truly tapped in, right? When we're actually in tune with nature and the world and our friends and all of these things, what we're actually doing is reconnecting with our animal gut. And our animal gut doesn't have to be told to think positively. It goes, that's dangerous. That's great. You're terrible. I once hired a company that shall go nameless. And I knew from the moment I signed with them, I was like, some things I don't know. And my whole body. And I genuinely, for 3 months, thought I was going through perimenopause and I couldn't sleep all night. And I literally called doctors and tried to get on antidepressants and couldn't figure it out. And the day that they quit, because I called them out finally on the bad behavior, and they quit because they had practiced bad behavior, my whole body went back into knowing. And so I think that the question is not whether we should be thinking positively. It's, do we actually think this is a positive place to be?
So it's alignment.
It's alignment.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's alignment. And, you shouldn't be everywhere. P.S. You should not be everywhere, right? Don't stand under a tree if it's about to fall, right? Don't do that, right? So the trick is not to feel safe everywhere we go. It's to know where you're safe and where you're in big, big trouble.
I when I gave this presentation last week, I was talking about the 3 components of building trust. So and this is Harvard research, so it's authenticity, logic, and empathy, right? And their logic example, and I built it on the screen, was talk about what you know, right? And it's like, duh. But they say, okay, if the box is what you know, you put a circle in the box. That's what you're allowed to talk about. But most people build a circle outside of the box. And that's where they get themselves in trouble, and people don't find them to be logical or trustworthy or authentic.
Right.
And it's such
accurately.
Yes. It's such a simple illustration. But we also have been taught to know it all and to be, especially as leaders or people that are in charge of something. You're supposed to have all of the answers. And this idea that we can't say, I got to be honest with you, I actually don't know the answer to that. But let's go find it together. Or
you know who would know?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I know where we can go to find that information.
And that is not a hindrance to our special something in our what we bring to the table, right?
Yes.
If you're going to hire me to speak, I can't talk about. I wrote a post about this the other day. After this, is that I'm a person who gets nervous. Right. Adrenalines go through. I typically cry after. I'll come home and cry. I come home and crash. After the speech, I came home and it was like 3, maybe earlier. And I was like, I can't. I'm going to fall asleep again. So I literally drove down the street. My sister works at a bar. I went and sat at the bar, and she's like, you look miserable. And I was like, my adrenaline is just coming down, and I just can't be vertical or horizontal. I need to be upright. And I didn't know where else to go. I don't have any money. I can't concentrate. And I feel it because I care about it. Right. And I said, if you are someone who doesn't experience this, part of this, I'm not saying all of it, we're all different human beings. But if you don't experience some version of this in your artistic process of doing something in service of others, right? Your stories do that. My stories do that, right? Then you're telling the wrong stories. Because they're not resonating with you in a way in which your whole body experiences it. Now, not everybody is going to do it the way I do it.
Can I shape that just a little bit, if that's okay, from my experience? Because so I realized one day, as I was getting ready to go up in acting class, I was terrified, right? I was completely nervous. I couldn't figure it out. It was many years ago. And I was like, what the fuck, body? Everyone in this room. It's not even standing up on a big stage in front of a bunch of strangers or auditioning for the show that you desperately want to be a part of. You know every single one of these people in this room. And I thought, but they're going to judge me. And I realized that what was going on in my limbic system was that I felt like a tiny little rabbit throwing myself into a room full of potential large cats, right? Who might want to rip my throat out. It was like I was walking in and going, do you think it's okay? Just don't bite me, okay? Instead of going, I'm a fox and I'm walking into a hen house, right? This is now my space for the next 5 minutes. And you may need to run and hide because that's going to be a lot for you. But I think that what happens in those moments for me is an ancient body system takes over and goes, you are in trouble. You're an idiot for doing this. Why would you do this to yourself? Instead of my time, my space, my forest.
We've been told not to trust ourselves.
We've been told not to trust ourselves. And that is genuinely just the physical reaction that you have when you feel like a little bunny. So I'm going to give you an assignment.
Yes. I love it.
Now as your acting coach.
It's my podcast.
Right? It's your podcast.
An assignment.
That's 100% true.
I'm kidding. I love it.
Do this for me. And I want to hear if this works, because this is genuinely a random Anna thought that I had one time. What happens if right before you go on stage, you go, I'm a fucking fox?
So I do some of that.
Yes.
I give so before I go on any talk, let's say the 10 minutes before, I'm always backstage. I like to be backstage longer than that. I like to feel the energy behind it and be able to understand what the audience feels like. Because then for me, to be honest, I'm always nervous until the first laugh.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like, if you can make people laugh, their shoulders go down and they're not waiting for you to fail. Sometimes people are like that. Depends on the audience. Audiences are weird. But I'll go backstage and I don't do like a full-fledged TED Talk superhero poke.
You're allowed, by the way.
But I walk around like it. So I strut. And I walk in and I say things to myself like, you're a fucking badass. You've done this so many times. You know this topic backwards and forwards. The people that are here to receive it will receive it. And I do that.
But you're still a little bit talking yourself into a positive from a negative place.
When I'm at home, though, on the good days, because there's good and bad days.
Yes, of course.
So this is where music for me is a really big deal.
Yes.
So I have a playlist it's the longest title in the world, but it's basically like artists, mostly females, who make me feel like I'm the biggest badass on the planet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And their songs. So I have an artist I'm like obsessed with. Her name is Chica. She has this album called the Samson album. And she's a hip hop artist, but I hope I'm telling the story right. She struggles mentally with depression and some other things that I'm familiar with. Yeah. And she's young. She's in her mid-20s. And she attempted suicide. And like 2 days after getting out of the hospital, recorded the whole album. And the album is such a... Like, there's a line and it says, I'm not a big girl, I'm a giant. Or I'm not a big girl, bitch, I'm a giant, right? Yeah. That one line, I'm like, that's right. And so it's stuff like that, right? Yeah. There's an artist, Rand Bernard, right now, who has this beautiful, funny and poignant and like in-your-face music. And it's people like that are like, you can still be vulnerable and scared and still think you're badass, right?
100%.
So I'm always, when I get ready, I am in the mirror and I am doing that kind of stuff because it's a practice for me to look in the mirror.
Yes.
I've not been able to do that.
Yes. Well, someone was very rude to you about your looks when you're, I'm just going to
not just one.
I'm just like,
not just one.
Yeah.
It was a life.
Inaccurately also, but okay, let's go on. Yeah.
I should clarify. Most of the listeners know this, but I have an autoimmune disorder that presents on my skin.
Oh.
So I was called all sorts of names as a kid and and all these things. So it was like, in high school, I found
fucking kids
in a body, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, we'd fuck her if she wore a paper bag over her head. Like that's what I heard until my mid to late 20s, good Lord. And so I just had this thing.
Yeah.
And so when people look at me, it's very uncomfortable. Like I honestly asked my therapist if I could be autistic because I don't like it. I struggle with it.
Yeah.
She's like, you're not autistic.
Yeah.
She's like, everybody's somewhere on a neurodivergent scale. Sure. Like, no, you're fine. But I'll do that. I practice that in the mirror. I have... Since my mid-20s, I do Friday night dance parties in my underwear. Yeah. And I make sure to go in the room that has the full-length mirror.
Yeah.
And it's more just about like, okay, my body's working.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm alive. I didn't turn somebody to stone by looking at them.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that, right? There's practices.
Yes.
You have to practice loving yourself.
100%.
Not just others.
And you can dance a new truth in.
Yes.
That's really true.
It's so healing.
It's so healing. I did a somatic dance workshop with an amazing friend of mine called Ishtara, and they're online classes. And she threw us together. It was when she was training, and she threw us all together into a small group with a bunch of women we didn't know. And we had to dance for each other. And first we'd dance as a group all together, and then we had to dance, and we would just be witnessed.
Yeah.
By the other women. And it was very raw and very visible. And a fuck ton of crying. And yet, so you could dance, right, the sadness of the circumstances, but then you could also find a way to take that and dance in the joy and the hope, right? And that those two things can live simultaneously, acknowledging the truth of the depth of emotions that live deep within ourselves cellularly, and then also go, and you're okay. Right. Be witness doing one and then prove to yourself the other also exists.
So funny. You're going to die.
So
I went to Bali in, let's say 2018. Okay. It was 2018. I took my sister with me. So I had to go for work. And she met me like mid to end of my work trip, stayed with me a couple days in that hotel while I finished.
Yes.
And then we spent another like 10 days in Bali. We traveled around. We did all this.
Amazing.
And so at the time I was very, very sick. I had been in the hospital a whole bunch. I was traveling a bunch and nothing was working. And doctors were telling me it was in my head. And I'm like, look at me. It's not in my head. So I researched a healer. And I found a healer and we did all these healing modalities, and God bless her, she was open to most of them to do them. But one of them was at this place called the Pyramids of Chi. And it was called a cacao ceremony, which we thought was a little weird because cacao didn't seem very Indonesian to us, but whatever. So we do it and they take you in. It's a really rainy night, like thunder, like downpour, right?
All the drama.
Yes, all the drama. And we've got this like little cab taking us into the like fields and stuff. And so we get to this place. There's 2 pyramids in the middle of this land. So they introduce us, they take us, and the pyramids are side by side. So one is here, one is here. So you're in this walkway, you come here, and they sage you before you go in. And in the room is a big gong, and there's like candles in the middle and like an offering. And you sit around, and if she can hear me, she is in the other room being like, I fucking hate this story. So she's 10 or 11 years younger than me. And she's a little more reserved, I would say, than I am.
Okay.
So we go in and they make us do these kind of exercises. And so one of them is they turn on, I think his name is Grizz or something. He's some like DJ guy. So it's like boom, boom, boom music.
Right.
I don't know how to do DJ sets. But you know what I mean? Like,
what you're actually describing is some version of modern shamanic drumming.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
So we go in and they make you start dancing around the room. Yeah. Okay. So I was like, well, so they made us drink the cacao first.
Yep.
Sorry. I skipped a really good part.
Right.
They do this cacao ceremony, and there's a white man who's leading it. And he tells us that his name is Kevin, but people call him White Feather or some version of that.
Okay.
And he said he had been Christian, Muslim, Native, and both Jasmine and I are like,
yeah.
No, Kevin, I don't think you've been those things. And so right away, my sister is like, fuck this shit.
No,
this
Kevin.
is a sham. So we drink the cacao, which is like bitter dirt water. And then they turn on the music and you're supposed to dance. So as you're dancing around, my sister has her hands in her pockets and she is literally like maybe doing this.
Yeah.
Like if you can't see this on the screen, it's not much.
That's about
it's
how much
a little bit of a shoulder. And I said, fuck it. I'm going full fledged. And I was in a middle meal.
Yeah.
And so I was just going like this. And she is I can see her watching me.
Yeah.
Just like, what, bitch, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because I'm also not like that. I'm very nervous in public crowds and spaces, whatever. But so I go, stay away from Jasmine. Stay away from Jasmine. Her energy is not your energy right now. Don't look at her. Because then they make us go up to people and we have to like touch each other's hearts and stare at each other, which is my nightmare. So I'm like tearing up, but I'm doing it. And she is over there going, I'm going to fucking kill Dawn. This is the worst experience of my life. Like, she's so mad. And this goes on for a good hour.
Oh, my God.
And it's different exercises and different dancing. And then they take us out. They Palo Santo us and take us into the next pyramid where there are, like, beds all over.
Okay.
Like yoga beds, but there were pillows and blankets. And the whole middle was sound instruments.
Okay.
And gongs and rain sticks and drums. And it was a sound healing for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said to her, don't lay next to me. I can't do it. So we do it. We leave. And there's a tea ceremony afterwards. And we go out. And she looks at me and I said, I know you really want to tell me how much you hated this. Yeah. But I need to let this sit for a minute for me. Yes. Can we wait? And it was about 10 minutes until we got in the cab. And she was like, what the fuck was that? Like, she could not hold it in. And for me, it was such a freeing experience that I might not have been able to do here without some form of inebriation.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know if I could have got out of my head.
Yeah.
I just don't get out of my head very often.
Yes.
But I really went in saying, I need to do all of these things to heal.
Yes.
So I'm just going to try it. If it's ridiculous, then we'll laugh about it tomorrow.
100%.
And we still laugh about it all the time.
Yes.
We laugh about the healer, like what he actually did to me and what really worked to heal me or whatever. But it's that those somatic experiences, I understand how everybody was crying except for Jasmine. Like everybody's emotions were spilling out.
Well, God bless her. Like not everything works for everyone.
Yes.
Right. Let's just be clear. She may have walked in there not being pretty sure it wasn't going to work for her, which didn't help, but it doesn't matter, right? We are allowed to all go find the thing that in fact works for us.
Yes.
That's true of community. That's true of our healing. That's true of finding our boundaries, right? We all have to be allowed to be on that own journey with some form of love and the right people around us.
And that, I love that because that is, I think the thing I said earlier about how like our friends, we all used to like the same things and now we don't. Yeah. So one of the things I've learned is I just don't invite certain people to do things with me. I just do them by myself.
Yes.
It's not because I don't like you or I don't want to hang out with you. It's because this isn't the thing that we're going to experience
together.
Yeah. Like I want to experience it a certain way. You can't give me that. And I know that, and I don't fault you for it.
100%. And we get so much more particular the older we, like, this is the way I want to be on the beach like this. I don't want to, I'm not bikiniing it. I'm reading whatever the thing is, right? I had a friend tell me when my oldest started preschool, go in there with gusto and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Because this is the last time you are going to meet a larger group of adults that are exactly at the same point in their lives that you are in theirs. And God bless him, he was so right? Because so many of those people remain instrumental friends to this day. Not all of them, right? Not every single one of them. But that's so true, right? That we go through these chunks where, right, you start grade school and you have some friends from there, and you start middle school, and that's a thing you're doing together. In college, forget it.
Forget it.
And some people stop at high school, and that's fine. And then you start your first job, and there's people you're going to carry with you from that phase. And it's so true that we look for those moments of connectivity, but it doesn't have to be liking the same thing. It has to be in the same phase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that allowing that to be unapologetic, I think is really the beautiful lesson of it.
Yes.
Is there's people for whatever you need.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why you have a community of 100 or whatever it is today is for those things. But we have to teach ourselves to do that, because otherwise then we're getting in these fights with people and these arguments or silent treatments because somebody did something that we don't even know we did it because we're not bold enough to talk about it out loud and say, and that, like, I'll come into spaces now and say, hey, can we stop? I don't want to make this a downer.
Yeah.
And I'm not calling anybody out. But when you say things like that, or when we do things like that, I do get a little offended, or I do get a little upset. And here's why. Here's my perspective on that. I have a big thing about the way people flippantly talk about mental health.
Yeah.
We had a situation in a group of people where this girl was like, I don't know, do I do therapy? And someone goes, well, no, you're not crazy. You don't need therapy. And I said, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have been in therapy almost my whole life.
Yeah.
And we can argue if I'm crazy or not.
Right.
But in the way that
But that's not a conversation I even want to have.
Right. But that's also not why everybody goes to that. And we have to think about that and think about the way we express ourselves about it. That was a big moment for me. Like this just happened a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, never shut down a conversation like that. But it was like I needed to do it, and I felt this thing.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I thought, I think we've built the safety where I can do it.
Yeah. Well, and I bet the next time you have that conversation, it's going to go, I freaking love therapy. You should totally try it.
Yeah, I don't know why everybody doesn't do it.
I don't have a clue. I think it's the best thing that ever happened. But I also think that, I felt of other as a child. I always felt like I was slightly on the outside, like looking into where the thing was happening. Yeah. And I think that maybe it's true that for those of us who have always felt like we're not quite clear where we fit into the group, that the essential quality of forming our own safe group is people pleasing, right? Trying to skirt around the outside. You've seen in the film, I have a moment where I'm sucked into, or the character is sucked into the PTA world, right? Where it's like, no, we all do things this way. And the character even says that. She's like, that's what we do for each other. It's like, oh, I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And that we're not allowed to make those decisions for ourselves about the things we do and don't, do comfortably is a really fascinating world. I don't know where that one came from, but
I like it.
I think it's exactly.
I actually think it's a good little segue, so we can finally talk about this movie. So some points of edification, clarification, whatever the right word. Sometimes I use big words and I don't really use it. I met you because a friend of mine, so this healing journey I'm on has got me to say yes to a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And something I've always dreaded is this concept of networking. And so I changed the way I looked at it, and I just started saying yes to going places.
Yeah.
And because I'm not working, especially if it's free, like I'll just go, right? It's like, I don't know what the movie's about. Let me go see a movie. Let me do this. And so they're not networking events.
Right.
They're just things. And I've been going, and I go by myself most of the time. So a friend of mine invited me to come and see a movie screening here locally in Portland, and honestly didn't tell me anything about it. She just said it was a movie that was written and directed by a woman. And she goes, so I thought it would be up your alley. I was like, of course it's up my alley. And it's a Tuesday and I don't work. So I know, right? I'm totally free as a bird, guys. If you have free tickets, call me. It is the benefit of being single and unemployed.
Oh, yeah.
I can be everybody's plus one. It's great.
It's phenomenal.
So we went, and there was like a panel before it. It was at this place called the Living Room Theaters, and there's a panel before it. Not heavily attended, unfortunately, but...
In fact, it was a Tuesday after all.
Yes. Like right after work and all of that. But Anna here was said writer, director, actress, producer, business owner, et cetera, et cetera.
Just trying to do it all,
you know. Film. And they did like a panel with some other women talking about what it means kind of to be a woman in corporate America, but it was a little bit more just being a woman in the working world, I suppose, and motherhood, right? Now, I now know that was a setup for the film. I didn't at the time, but you ended up moderating the conversation, and no one's going to be surprised by this. I was sitting on my hands like, fuck, why am I not on this panel? Like, oh, God, I need to be up there.
You should have been moderating the panel.
Immediately after we talked, I thought, oh, my gosh, I would have been really good to moderate.
Yeah.
She ended up moderating her own panel unexpectedly. Did a wonderful job, by the way. And I bum rushed her with my business card and said, look, do you ever want to be on a podcast? Which is the only way I know how to talk to people right now in those scenarios. Because I'm like, that's an opening. And then they can.
And what did I do? I went, yes, obviously.
She said, yes. Oh my God, that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
And so then we go in and we watch the movie. So the movie is called NORA. And I'm going to say what my synopsis is. It is taking you on a journey for someone who is a mother, but kind of defining what motherhood is for her in new ways in relationship to her work and to her art, into her humanity, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that transitional point that happens, I think it happens regardless of kids or marriage, but where all of a sudden you worked all this time for a certain life, and then life says, no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you see this through this experience of you taking care of your daughter solo on your own in a new city, old city.
Yeah.
And you see the outward components, but you see the inward struggles of it as well. And I don't know if this is intention, but I also think you see the struggle of the child experiencing it a little bit.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And like, what is this new dynamic and why is this and all of that, beautifully played by your real life daughter.
Yeah.
She was a gem in this movie.
She's pretty good.
How did I do?
No, I think that's great. Okay. What's interesting about that is you put motherhood first. And when I describe it, I describe a singer-songwriter who has to give up on her dream to move back home to suburbia to focus on her child. And I think that this is one of the interesting things about becoming a mother, right? Mm-hmm. Is that we're expected to put that as our first job first.
Yeah.
And when they're really little, of course it is, right? They don't survive without your physical support. But there's this point where they're big enough that they can walk on their own and they don't need a stroller everywhere. And, yes, you have to remember the water bottle and you still have to pack them a lunch, but they're kind of capable. And you suddenly go, where the hell did I go?
Yeah.
Where am I in this story that I've written for this little person? Yeah. And to me, that's where this moment happens is, right as she's going into first grade, which is a major transition moment for a little kid. But the mom suddenly goes, where are my dreams?
Yeah.
And the choices that I've made with my life. And so what she realizes is that those dreams don't give up on you just because you've decided to leave them behind.
Or you've lost is it attention? Is it prioritization?
The time, right? Like, when you have a kid, you definitely just plain have less energy and less hours in your day until this moment where it transitions. And what I realized was one of the great things about being a creative is your mind is always spinning. Yeah. So you're actually kind of always doing your job. Yep. And especially as an anxious creative, right, who's constantly spinning scenarios to make sure I'm not going to mess it up. That's gotten much better with therapy. But that's really, truly where my mind has lived most of my time. I'm telling myself the story of what might happen next. And when I took that in a writing perspective, right, what happens if I haven't given up on my dreams? They're still in there. As a singer-songwriter, and I'm a singer but not a songwriter, so the music was written by my amazing friend Noah Harmon. But we took these songs, and every time something big and emotional happened within the context of this story of moving back home and of leaving the dreams in the rearview mirror, the dreams don't give up on you. And every time something emotional happened, they turn into not just the song in her head, but the full-fledged music video that would come if you let that dream live all the way to its end.
So I think I started with Mother, interestingly enough, for a reason. One is I watched the movie as someone who is not a mother.
Yes.
And what was interesting, as you just said, it started with her starting first grade.
Yeah.
So at not being a mother, I couldn't figure out, for me, not that the film didn't tell this. I think the film told this, but I think if you were a mother, it probably hit different.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, not arguing that at all.
I couldn't figure out why that pull was waited to happen then. It felt like it would be easier to do what you wanted to do now that she was in school. And I know the move was part of that and all of that. But so for me, it was like, almost like, wait, did she just become a mother? Did it and I know all of this by the end of the movie, but that was like how I was coming into it. I was like, well, why is this happening now?
Yes.
And so I thought, oh, she's a new mom.
Yes.
That's how I started it when I came in.
Right. And she's not specifically a new mom, but I do think that it's about any person who's in transition.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think
100%.
that, let's say you had to move back home to take care of an aging parent. Let's say, your dog passes away, right? Like there's all of these moments that change the dynamic of everything that's actually going on within us. And I'm really interested in why we start and stop ourselves in those moments. And I had been very, very obviously squelching my own voice out of the fear of yelling.
Yeah.
Right. For such a long time that it wasn't until I was like, I've got nothing left to hide.
Yeah.
I'm now 40 something years old and I still want the thing I always wanted. And it probably couldn't have happened before I crossed that milestone, you know?
And what I really liked about the movie, one thing is that there is a husband.
Yep.
But I'm assuming this was done on purpose. It's an artistic choice. He is irrelevant to the story in so many ways.
Yes. He's out on the road managing a band.
We only heard 10 words from him in the whole movie, give or take, right?
Exactly. Yep.
However, I thought it was interesting choice of the catalysts in your life that helped push you were two men.
Yes.
The teacher and the best friend.
Yes.
I loved that the best friend was male.
Yes.
Because in our generations, male best friends was the thing.
Yes.
And I as a single woman, that is one of the biggest changes in my life is that you're not allowed to be friends with men because they're married and it creates all these things.
Yes.
And so I don't have male energy in my life. Right. And so I loved that male and female energy together is beautiful.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
And it doesn't have to be romantic.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And to see that, and we didn't know that for a while.
Yes.
I didn't know who you were talking to.
Yes.
So I loved that. And then the teacher as well, I loved that it was somebody younger than you.
Yes.
And it wasn't flirty. It was, but it wasn't.
I think,
if that makes sense.
What I was really interested in playing with was Hollywood has always told us that if a man and a woman stand on the same screen together, you wonder when they're going to kiss.
Yes.
You wonder when they're going to make out. You wonder when they're going to leave the worst version of a partner for each other.
Yes.
And that has not been my experience of male and female friendship either.
No, and this character, I wouldn't go as far to say has idolized you. But he saw you.
Yes.
He saw your talent.
He sees her at the moment. Yes. He sees her at the moment. He recognizes her from the previous life. Exactly. And what it really is, and this was another thing I hadn't seen described by Hollywood, I absolutely set up the confusion about what their relationship means. Yeah. But ultimately, what he is her muse. How often do we see the male cast as the instigator for it's okay to create?
In a non-sexual
way. Just I need this person to be able to round out the sound. I can write the things, but I need somebody else's voice to help me sing the thing. I don't feel entirely comfortable solo by myself up on that stage. What if I had backup? Right? What if I had a partner? What if somebody else plays the guitar better than me? And not to ruin the ending in any way, shape, or form, but I'm fascinated that we've been dictated that the story is always who's going to make out with who.
Well, and yes, it is very nice to not have all the stories for women be about love. Or
it is
the search of The Search of Romantic and Sexual.
Search of Romantic and Sexual. That I will 100% agree with. This movie is about her finding love for herself, which was 100% mirrors my own journey, right? There was so much of my life that I was judging my lack of success, my lack of willingness to speak out, all of these things. And I think that instead of Nora obviously judging herself, she just learns the love.
And the mother is intentional. I am assuming that this happens in a lot of art, but I don't think it does it in a way that often honors the role of a mother. But moms can be harsh. They can have very high expectations for us, and they are the ones that cut like a knife and don't maybe know that they're doing it.
Don't know that they're doing it.
And it comes from a place of being scared and being worried and having so much love generally, right?
And thinking that they have found the right answer.
Yes.
Right? I think that that
their job as a mom is to find the right answer.
And tell it to you. Exactly.
Yes.
And dictate to you, right, the way that it worked for them, which must be the way that it works for you. I'm very grateful to be parenting. And again, my parents weren't terrible about this. I want to be clear about that. But there was still sort of, I'm teaching you the things you need to know. And I would go, God, it just doesn't ring true to me at all. Yeah. And I don't know how to even argue with you about it because that is your experience. And one of my favorite things about that relationship is Leslie Ann Warren plays my mom, which was just the luckiest get in the entire world. Freaking Cinderella here.
Get out.
Oscar nominated deliciousness. And she was amazing. And I really only had one day on set with her and I was terrified. Yeah. And it went great. And we bonded really fast. Yeah. And we found each other in a really, truly artistic sense, like almost immediately. Yeah. And when we started to film the final scene between the two of them, what I realized was we both believed with conviction that we were trying to find each other. Yeah. And we couldn't. Yeah. And that was the pain of the scene was that they both love each other so much and both feel completely misunderstood in the kind of love they're trying to deliver to each other. And I think that is a more truthful interpretation than any version of, well, moms can suck or moms can be the worst, right? I think they're trying their fucking best. And especially if they grew up with a parent who was trying even harder to dictate and explain, right? I'm very grateful to have been a kid who felt slightly misunderstood. I love you, mom and dad. That's not right. Like it's not about that. It's like that I was like, I just wish I could explain that that you don't live in the same world that I do, right?
And therein is the rub for everyone.
I think so.
I have said this, I don't know if it's on here or wherever. I talk a lot. Is this, parents, every parent has one thing in common. They want their children to have a better life than they did. Or they want them to have
they suck totally as a human and can't figure that out. But
for the most part, right? We do what we can to give our children
what we think they need. Yes. That I will agree with 100%.
Yes. And in the process of that, we forget our own childhood experiences that said, gosh, they really want a lot from me, but the world has changed. They taught me things that they weren't taught. Yeah. So my perspective is different than theirs was as well. And so it's like we always wish for better for the next generation. And then when they do better or do different, we get all up in arms about it because it's not what we know.
Yes.
And I think that's a very common struggle, right? And why parents and kids kind of have this thing. Yep. There's all the traumas and the things that happen when we're young and big T, little t, all of that kind of crap.
Yes.
But then there is the meeting as adults.
Yes.
And the letting go and the giving in,
there's holding on and letting go. There's adapting and adopting versus insisting that things need to stay the same. There's so many versions of this. My favorite version of this right now is my dad used to get driven crazy. He was an English major, deeply intelligent lawyer, like the smartest man I know. And he would get so frustrated when I would use the word awesome to mean cool, because it's not filled with awe. What are you talking about, right? And I would sort of try to be like, no, but that is what it means. And we were both right? His version of the word growing up, awesome meant full of awe. And mine was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And language evolves too.
And that was the thing, right? Yes. If we don't recognize that things will change over time and grow, right? The word literally literally doesn't mean literally anymore. It actually means figuratively, yes. Right? Like it's those moments where you're like, as a parent, so every time my kids use a slang word, I'm like, could you explain to me what that means? Because I am not familiar with sus, yes. Right? Yeah. Slay, huh? All right. And then I try to use it. My daughters are invariably like, embarrassed. I don't know what
was the same in our generation. And
exactly.
That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
We all see this. We've seen it in movies. We see the parents who didn't get with the times. We all see it, and yet we fall trapped to the continuation of the inability to evolve.
So most entertainment looks at any argument from a one-sided perspective.
Okay.
So think about the times where you've watched a movie where a parent's been like, I don't know what that means. I feel not cool. I very carefully in my own film went from both perspectives. Like the fact is, the 6-year-old kid in my movie understands mom most of the time better than mom understands herself, right? She's being way more observant about mom's actual state of discomfort than mom can possibly realize from the internal struggle that she's like holding on really tight to try to make everything seem okay. Yeah. And little kid calls her out. Yeah. That is the thing I haven't seen before. Yes. Both perspectives actually being presented simultaneously. Yes. And that's what I'm obsessed with is, right? Like, no one gets to say I'm wrong and you're right. It's just where I come from over here. Yeah. It makes me crazy. Women always say, right? You know how people are. Yeah. Like all of these generalized platitudes where I'm like, as a person who never felt quite like I fit into any of those generalized platitudes, could we stop? Can we instead say,
and yet we all do it.
Yes. Yeah. But I really would love if the conversation could instead be, my experience has always been this. Is that yours? Right. Or what's yours? Right.
I just finished this morning, actually, the last episode of that series Forever on Netflix. And there's a scene that I felt like I hadn't seen represented in film before, black or white, but specifically for a Black family, but I hadn't seen it. But there was a mother-daughter situation in which the daughter says something to the mother. The mom gets real upset, leaves, silent treatment, comes back to discuss it. They get into it a little bit more. The mother is upset. They separate. That's pretty common. The comeback was what I really enjoyed. And the comeback was the mom went to one quick therapy session, but said, I realized that while I was busy trying to keep you safe and take care of you, I didn't create a safe environment for you to come and talk to me. And I was like, oh my God, that is it, right? That's it. It's all anybody wants. And that is a general, right? But like there are generals where human beings have the need to be seen and understood.
Yes.
To feel safety, to feel loved, right? These are the general tenets of mental health, if you will.
Yes.
And yet we are so busy defending our side of the street. We often forget that even with our best intentions, we're not giving people what they need, but also we're not telling people what we need.
And we're not insisting upon it for ourselves. That was what I was going to say, right? It sounds like also, I haven't seen the scene. I haven't seen the program yet, but one of the things that we were fed this idea of gentle parenting, right? For a while. And I remember always looking at it and being like, but your kid's being a dick. Like, do they have to be a dick for us to be okay? And what I realized was most of the time, those parents aren't going, hey, that hurt my feelings. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I'm willing to have this conversation with you, but let's have it in a way where we can actually get to the root of the problem. And I try really hard to do that with my girls. You're yelling at me right now. Yeah. It's okay to yell, but I think that you might be tired or hungry. Or did something happen in school that we need to talk about because I can't, or did I do something wrong? Because right now I can't identify why I'm being the source of your anger. You're allowed to have the anger. But let's find the right outlet for it and let me be the place where you get to do that. That's like an 85-step process and it can be very exhausting.
No, but it works beyond kids.
Yes, exactly.
It's in every relationship we have.
Exactly.
And I think we're on the search for resolution all the time.
As opposed to understanding.
As opposed to understanding. And even like, some of my friendships have changed during this process. And somebody said, I just want you guys to be back to where you were. And I said, well, that is impossible. Yeah. I said, I appreciate that that's your desire for us as people, but we can't. There's a new reality. Now, that doesn't mean we can't move forward into something new.
Yeah.
If we both decide to meet there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it will never be what it was because now we know something different we didn't know before.
And we're older and know more and are different people.
Here's the, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's where, the healing.
Yeah. Like if we never come together again.
Yeah.
I had a beautiful time while it happened.
Yeah.
It didn't end the way I wanted it to. Yes. And I am sad about that, but I have mourned it.
Yeah.
And I am ready to move forward. And right now, that's not with this person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying forever.
Yeah.
But right now, that trust or that safety isn't there. I don't have to hate somebody. I don't have to be angry to stay in that space.
Correct.
I can heal from it and move on. And I just don't think that is what we put the onus on.
Letting someone go with grace, right? And realizing there's not enough of an overlap. There's not enough of a similarity that whatever you've both learned in two different directions, right, is one of the most beautiful, difficult lessons. And I'm sure, like me, right, I've messed it up before I got to the point where I could go, oh, I see it, right? We pick the same patterns over and over again. And so when we finally decide to start breaking those patterns, it's messy at first. Yeah. And then we finally go, oh, I saw it early this time.
Well, because we used to say, you're wrong, I'm right, or you're right and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And there was always one or the other. But you know what? We were both assholes.
My God, if there's anything we've learned, truthiness is not necessarily so truthy anymore. Just kidding. That's not a real problem for me, but conceptually.
Now, we are technically, we went way over, so we'll do it.
What? You and me talking?
I know. Oh my gosh.
It seems like
guys, we've the first time we met, only talked for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we had a 25-minute conversation on the phone. But clearly, it seems like we've known each other a while.
Yeah.
There are so many things we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
I really would have loved, it might mean we have to talk again, but I really would have loved to understand the journey 20 plus years in your industry and what that looks like as a woman.
Yeah.
And how it evolved to getting you to this moment.
100%.
We don't have enough time for that. However, I always like to end the podcast with someone being able to say, what is it you hope people take from this? Or, if you have a message that you wish women could embrace more, or a lesson that you've learned. But what is it like if someone leaves today and they only, because we're in a soundbite culture, what is it that you think you would like to leave? Or that your film leaves?
From this particular conversation, and maybe from the film too, take the journey. Take the first step. In storytelling, we always say, first the character has to hesitate before they can choose to take the journey. And I guess I wish I hadn't hesitated as long as I did, but I'm so glad to have started the steps of the journey. And there's so much more confidence and security in being truly on the journey than in the holding back phase before it. And I feel like that's everything we've been talking about today, at least.
So if I can be so bold, what's the next step in the journey for you? This film is out.
This film is out. We're going to be live on the Veeps streaming platform, VEEPS, which is an incredible opportunity. It's the distribution agent for live concerts and comedy venues from Live Nation. Yeah. So Veeps is an incredible opportunity. They're taking a real risk on us. And it's because we truly fell in love over the musical element and they love the story. So that film gets to be out there in the world. And I'm still in the phase where I'm encouraging people to see what it means to them, right? To say, please see if this story has bearing on your life. And then I get to figure out how to make the next one.
And that's you're like, I'm doing this again.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. I think, my industry is in a scary place right now. So we need to figure out how films can make money again. But I know for sure that what I want to do is create stories and be the person who chooses which stories are told.
I love it. So if people are looking for you,
yes,
where do they find you?
Anna Campbell is my professional stage name. There's also a wedding dress company that's Anna Campbell. So I've become a little bit more popular because of this. But and the movie is at norathemovie.com. That'll send you all the places you can see that one. And we're on Spotify and Apple Music if you look for Nora and Anna Campbell.
We will put all of this in the blog show notes so that you guys can get access to her. You can find her on social media if she's there. And do all of those things and ways to go see the movie Nora. I think it is a really good opportunity to see a different way to express and tell stories that represent who we are at the heart and the struggles that we go through and the people and places and things that inspire us to take the next step.
Yeah.
And I thought the movie did a really good job of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would love it if the women, the mothers, the dreamers, the artists, the people who are in a transition phase, it seems that's like a broad audience, but those are my people.
Hey, yeah. Tell that customer, ideal customer.
Here we are, marketing.
Thank you all for joining. We will have everything up on the website. You can go to Spotify and go thing. I'm going to say all the things I always tell you. Please follow us. Please write a review. It helps. I don't know why, but apparently the algorithms really like it when people already know you before they introduce you to other people. It's really freaking weird. So do all those things. Let us know if you have questions. You can email us. And until next time, thank you. Bye. Wait, Hold Up What is brought to you by the women at Eliminate Girl Hate. We are edited and mixed by the good people at Epiphany Recording Studio. Make sure to subscribe to get notified of new episodes and support our program. To learn more about the work we are doing, get resources to help you and or your business, please visit us at eliminategirlhate.com. And, of course, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us at Instagram at wait.holdup.what and eliminate_girl_hate. As always, your support means everything to us, and it is the way that we can continue to make positive and uplifting program that supports women and girls around the world. Thank you. We are sponsored by Epiphany Recording Studio. Creativity needs to flow freely if you want to reach that aha moment that we're all looking for. At Epiphany Recording Studio, their goal is to create space that takes full advantage of those moments. From podcast and video production to music creation, you get the support you need to create compelling stories with a competitive sound. Your ideas can flow freely because they partner with you free of judgment, ready to be vulnerable, do the work, and make your projects look and sound their best. So let Epiphany Recording Studio help you reach your artistic vision by visiting them today at epiphanyrecordingstudio.com. Tell them Dawn sent you. Did you know that 80% of the world's purchases are influenced and made by women? Or that 90% of product development, manufacturing, and corporate leadership is led by men? I don't know about you, but that seems like some funky, disconnected math. This disconnect means large segments of the population are not getting their needs met because the products being made never even asked us what problems we needed to solve. Instead, companies use a pink it and shrink it philosophy. Not familiar? I bet you are. You know it. Take a man's product, make it smaller, paint it pink, sell it for 25% more. Then, when the products fail to make a dent in the market or to sell rapidly, they say things like, the market wasn't ready. Or, we were so sure it was going to work, I wonder what happened. And then they move on. I'm here to tell you, the market is most definitely ready. But the market is savvy. And putting some paint and saying it was designed for us is a slap in the face. We have real needs, and we're not settling for anything less than real solutions. If this sounds familiar to you and your business, then it's time to connect with Eliminate Girl Hate. We help businesses understand the lucrative consumer segment of women and how to meet their needs in authentic ways. From problem solving, product creation, marketing, and even human resource practices, we help create safe and equitable spaces for the female segment. And these safe spaces increase profit margins, employee retention, and brand loyalty along the way. It's time to start a revolution and meet your consumers where they are. It's time to eliminate girl hate. Check us out, eliminategirlhate.com, and find out how we can help your business today.